I really do give up with this whole. I got the live streaming thing fixed, and now it's just buggering up. I don't know what's going on. I I made a part two. I did a part two live stream, and then it just wouldn't. Apparently, a lot of people on YouTube are the thumbs up and the thumbs down thing. That has been going on for the past few years, for about 4 years, I'd say, ever since I started doing the live stream. And then the live stream thing stopped working, and then I got YouTube to fix it again. So the likes go up and down. They'll go up, then they'll go down. And I thought to myself, there can't be some sad case. I mean, you'd have to be some really demented. I know there are demented people watching my videos. I know that, obviously. That's why all these, things have happened. But I thought to myself, surely there can't be someone doing a thumbs up and thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down. But apparently, YouTube does that to people who talk about really interesting things, reality, reality. They're the people who get attacked. So I just drink my tea. So I might have to go back to just uploading the odd little video. Um, so where was I before? Start again. So as I was saying, from part one, so this is part two of I Am Very Scared. The letter from the GP practice dated 31st of July. Uh, yeah, so she mentions, she meaning me, mentions some religious reasons similar to J double, but not AJW, about concerns about it, but not outright refusal, talking about having a blood transfusion. Uh, and by the way, I've since learned that it was okay just to have an iron infusion, which is why I felt better, and also I stopped losing so much blood. Um, I won't be graphic for someone of my age, but it wasn't normal, and for 2 weeks, and really, really, like it felt like Darren had to go and buy some shorts, and it was almost like a hemorrhaging. And I do believe this is caused by stress, because this was just a couple of weeks after this landlady locked me out of the house. The landlady locked me out of the house on the 5th of July. This telephone conversation was the 31st of July. And by the way, the injunction order, which I have all this evidence, the court injunction order was dated the 24th of July. And it said, no one is to touch the defendant, me, because I was in arrears. She threw out the possession order. I was in rent arrears because the support worker was meant to help me set up universal credit, closed the case. I then had to get another BHT support worker. And these are the people, BHT, Lorraine Blackwell, who protected convicted criminal mentioned in the BBC as mugging the elderly with her mother, attacking me at Belmore Road. And the property managers are friends with this landlady that's in contempt of court for 15 months. And BHT duty solicitors at Hastings Crown Civil Court were going to help me make a counterclaim against the landlady, but decided not to. Now there's something going on. I'm having to put in another report about Mr. Holdham. Something's going on with the second law firm. I'm not going to say what, because of Snoopy Snoopers. and because I've got to be very careful what I say until it's actually happened and been investigated. But there's more corruption going on. Also, I've had to get the Charity Commission to look into the complaint about. They haven't looked into my serious complaints about the bullying and threats from the CEO of Warming Up the Homeless and another volunteer who said that if I mentioned her on my YouTube channel, she would sue me as a homeless person for illegally withdrawing services. So anyway, so back to this. So basically, because I'm going to have to call out paramedics here because I am. This doctor said to me, Dr. Webborn, he said, "Do you get out of breath?" Yes, I am really struggling going up and down the stairs. So I've got to register with another doctor's practice because the doctor's practice that I went to will not register me because it's crazy because I don't have a fixed abode. Even though I used Darren's care of address, it's insane. I'm a refugee in my own homeland. If I'd come over here illegally on a boat, apparently they give them everything. They give them, not that I want a smartphone. Oh, that's another thing. Let me just say this. Have you seen Carl Vernon Talks? Nokia phones, you know, the dumb phones. These are actually the smartphones. They're not the dumb phones. These are selling on eBay for something crazy. These are, so you know, these the these are the new, the old phones. What they now, they call the dumb phones. People are now going after them because they don't want a smartphone anymore. You see, I already knew many years ago what was going on, but this is not actually an old phone. I actually had the old orange phone, the original, the brick phone from the late 90s, um, given to me by someone in the early noughties because I never wanted to have a mobile phone. It was my eldest sister who got me to have one. I think who's that guy? That guy who gave me a funny look. What's his name? Uh, what's his name? He used to be on Room 101. And what his name is. Back in the 90s, he used to do Room 101. He still doesn't have a mobile phone. I wonder how he copes. So, yeah, so getting back to this, I discussed the risks of not having a transfusion and that her anemia is very severe and would have a significant impact on her life and well-being, including fatigue, a word I can't pronounce, tachycardia, infection, and can become life-threatening if left untreated. She felt a little overwhelmed at the time and agreed to consider her options and call me back as I would be happy to refer her back to SDEC for a transfusion. We also discussed her mental health and whether she would be open to an ATS referral, which is bullshit, basically. She declined for now, but agreed to think about her options and is aware of their availability and also where to seek support when struggling. Basically, nowhere because this is the UK and it's Eastbourne. A comment. Await Bryony's response whether she's happy to consider a blood transfusion and whether she would like to have an ATS referral. So anyway, the long and short of that basically is is yeah. So I was actually told at the time in July of last year when I got this, I'd had the iron infusion, and I was actually told by triage staff that it's nonsense. You do not have to have a blood transfusion. So no, I'm not attacking this doctor because this doctor, even though they don't do anything about the homelessness thing, but so the Dr. Caro had illegally deregistered me and everything, but I am going to have to call paramedics. I'm very, very, very scared. I don't know where I'm going to end up. It is very, very frightening. And when you've got an MP, Josh Burundi, who says he's a victim of your YouTube channel that's got evidence of you being attacked to the point where you think you'll be killed and your bedroom window smashed, well, these property managers are friends with this landlady who should be in prison. And like I was saying earlier, the irony that Katie Hopkins has been arrested for calling herself a spaz, and that foul-mouthed, well, I say foul-mouthed, I'd say that school teacher tenant that assaulted me, I've got evidence of her calling Darren a cunt, and she's a school teacher. Welcome to the UK. Yes, my Edwardian grandmother was a teacher. Do you think, being so middle class and well to do, she would have called anyone a cunt? I don't even think she'd know what a cunt is. But that school teacher tenant called Darren a cunt, as did the police officer that very badly beat me in A&E. All these people should be in prison, including the officers who took evidence of the school teacher assaulting me, and they went on to sexually assault me, and I'm a rape victim. So there's a lot that's happened. And in the meantime, having my freedom of speech attacked. And isn't it interesting that this landlady wanted to help me write a book? Because they've become part of the story. Jack and Nori. Yes, but this is for real. This unfortunately isn't a fairy tale. And there's certainly nothing nice about it. More like Brothers Grimm fairy tale. But version, shall we say. You want the fluffy version or the Brothers Grimm version? I'm giving you the Brothers Grimm version. Yeah, so but like I said, I've in the last video that I made, I've got the evidence on the dictaphone of the A&A contractor calling me an effing spastic, and he was the one who had walked in on dead bodies. And I said, "Who's?" And at one time I said, "Who's that? Who?" There's a little boy out here. There was a little boy outside in the backyard, and I said there are used needles. I'd had my bedroom window smashed. And yeah, one of the mother and daughter were mentioned in the online BBC News as mugging the elderly for a second time with their mother. The daughter was. And like I said, BHT didn't want to help me make a counterclaim because they, along with the police and the council, were protecting these convicted criminals, one of whom was on a tag, whom I recorded threatening to beat me senseless at 3 a.m. and then 3 hours later I was arrested. So I really can't wait to meet this public figure up in London. I really can't. Um, you know, but in the meantime, I am really, really, really frightened. I'm really, really frightened. I'm not showing it because I'm doing the British stiff upper lip. But as Katie Hopkins said, we are. I'm a refugee in my own homeland. I've been tortured, and I've been trying to get into flats. But my but they won't take. At one point I nearly got into a flat, but my late father's inheritance is nearly completely depleted on these hotels illegally. Uh, I don't know why that. Well, anyway, as I said, I very nearly got into a flat, and then for some reason they gave it to someone else. Even though I called back straight away when I got the voice message. No, it was a text message to say we've got good news for you, and then they said you weren't fast enough. The landlord is impatient, which I think is totally wrong and unfair. You shouldn't. But there's been some, yeah, funny business going on. A lot of funny business. And like I said, I need honesty to come my way. Um, just a lot of funny business. But I've tried studio flats, 1 bedroom flats. There's just short supply, high demand. There's stipulations. I will not. I'm not safe to go into a house share. Not after dealing with all these lunatics. I spoke to a man in Wetherspoons some time ago, and he said, "Oh, I could never go into a house share. He said I'd go insane." I thought, well, that's made me feel better because these people are lunatics. They are vile. You would have thought that you would be safe with an elderly landlady and an elderly tenant and a school teacher tenant. Foul mouthed, vile, antisocial, no consideration whatsoever. And these are the people that you naturally assume that an elderly person and a professional, a school teacher, well, there was a time when they were considered professional. In their private lives, they have to have a level of conduct. School teachers do anyway. I had a bit of a disagreement with Marion's neighbour about GPs because that that's a New Zealand, that Kiwi's GP. He's had to spoil it all, knowing that I was vulnerable, knowing that I have a partner. He said, "I'd invite you in, but I'd like a kiss and a cuddle." And yeah, but anyway, so there we go. Um, on that note, like I said, Katie Hopkins is saying that a lot of Brits will have to move to America. I would like to move to America. I would like to be accepted. I'd be well at home. I've always felt this way. And not because I bought into the American dream. I did when I was a child. It's all BS. No, it's because of the thought pattern. It's the way they think. And Trump, you know, I mean, like I said, when Mum's Italian American friend from New York, when Anne stayed, I was just so glad that she saw how my generation were behaving on a night out. Like I said, say no more. Um, she was like, "Is this how people?" Is this? She was appalled, absolutely appalled to see how my generation behave. And American ladies want to be wined and dined, but they're quite right. English men are like, "Oh, let's go for a pint down the pub," rather than actually wine and dine a lady. They'd rather have a, yeah. Uh, it's a drinking nation, isn't it? And my mother brought me up the way children are brought up on the continent, having wine with my dinner rather than thinking, oh, it's cool to go and get PISSEED. All my friends from school, they were all, oh, even my middle class friends, they thought it was cool to get drunk. And one of them, I won't say her name, she apparently had her stomach pumped. And I just thought, I can't believe they've ended up like this. So Not always having a middle class upbringing helped, but it does help. Um, but it's also about your your what's the word? I can't think of the word. Your the customs that you've been brought up with, you know. And like I said, American ladies, they're not, you know, they expect to be wine, you know, taken to a restaurant, not taken down the pub, taken down the pub. This is what always put me off about, you just couldn't go to a nightclub without seeing young people my generation being violent and wanting sex, but in such a violent manner. And this is why I just didn't want it put me off young men as well. I thought, oh, they're like silly boys that want to get into fights and drink. They want to drink so that they're vomiting and ugh, you know, where are the gentlemen? So I was too busy looking at men that were old enough to be my father and older, and but that's not the reason why I gave Dave Prowse my number. Dave Prowse, who was older than my mother, so he played Darth Vader. He was how old would he be? He'd be close to 90 now, wouldn't he? Yes, he used to ring me up. It went to the 80s concert. Um, oh, but so what was I saying? So basically, this thing that's come out about Big Brother. I just finish on this note because it is very It's all very very frightening. Um, yeah, Katie Hopkins gets arrested for calling herself a spaz. I've been called an effing spastic by an A&A contractor who gave me the key to a council hellhole with criminals. He wasn't arrested. I'm arrested though. And I'm the victim of the hate crime. And I'm the one being attacked. And yet Josh Burundi, our local MP, makes out he's a victim of my survival. Do you know what? I put someone in prison, 2 years in prison and 10 years on a sex offenders register. I went to the rape victim centre in Crawley, got no help with that. Did all of that on my own. And yet, what the police have done to me, and one time being attacked by convicted criminals to the point where I thought one of these nutters was going to kill me when I was in the bath. They take drugs, they do things that I don't understand. There are drugs gangs that are being protected by the council and the police. I recorded neighbours supporting me. My bedroom window was smashed. I was terrified for my life, and I always thought how brave and amazing I was to survive that. And our local MP, Josh Burundi, what a coward. What a coward, eh? He'd never met me before. He ignored my online application when he was councillor OBE. I was being threatened by the council, being arrested to shut me up, to silence me. The man had never met me before, and he couldn't even be bothered to introduce himself. No formal how do you do. Oh, you're Bryony. I know about your YouTube. Sorry? You know about my YouTube? I was a victim of it. How do you know? Wouldn't answer me. I was fuming angry. And that man lied to me, and so has his MP caseworker. I'm sick to death of the lies and the corruption. And now this Joe Holden and something else that I can't repeat. But I'm going to be taking it to this public figure up in London. That much I am saying. Because you really have, you've showed your true colours. I've had to complain about the charity commission, to a manager of the charity commission, about not taking on my complaints about the bullying and the threats from warming up the homeless. There's just so much that's been, I've got a landlady that's actually committed a real crime against me, and I have been sexually assaulted as a rape victim, arrested and threatened with prison because I refused to call my sister a man. My free speech has been attacked. The Free Speech Union is a con. Kellie J. Keane, I'm going to bring up that as well, because that's just, do you know what? Kellie J. Keane might as well be a member of the LGBT cult, because it's more, it's just another cult, women together bullying. There might be some genuine women there. Well, bring them to me then, because this is why I keep away from women. I just, the toxicity in this country. That is why people are leaving this country. And I'm at that. I never, I used to come back from holiday as a child. I used to say to my mother, I love having holidays abroad, but I can't wait to come back to the green hills of England. I love coming back home to England. I'm English through and through. I'm now wishing that my mother had stayed at sea in the 50s and 60s and never come back here. She had an amazing life at sea, particularly in America. She met those famous people, and Harry Belafonte. She served him, didn't she? And well, I think it was in England, Woman's Magazine, where she met Gene Kelly. I think she'd only just left school, I think, back then. And I had the hots for him at one point. Uh, um, what's his name? Because I love singing in the rain, Gene Kelly. And then Michael Flatley, my first kiss on the lips when I was 14. I wanted to be an Irish dancer. I wanted to be a dancer, period, but I'd love to have been an Irish dancer. I've got Irish blood on my father's side. So, well, McCarthy, isn't it? Yeah, right, I'm going off on a tangent here. So, but I think it's very concerning that what Katie Hopkins has said about moving, that many Brits will be hopefully welcome to the US with open arms. But that's, I've always felt that I've got the North American mentality. I always felt that there's always been this stoicism in the UK, and this everyone's got to be the same, samey, and be follow the sheep. And my mother used to say, Bryony does not follow the sheep. And this cowardliness, this bullying. My mother said there's a lot of jealousy in the UK, and she must have experienced that when she came back here. And another thing she noticed was that when she came back from the US, she said the fashion here was, the Americans were ahead with everything. She came back here and everything was still dowdy. I think they were probably still using ration books, because they were using ration books in the 1950s in in this country. But Well, I don't know when they stopped using them, but everything was behind with the times. Um, but anyway, no, it's the for me, it's the mentality, and you know, Donald Trump reminds me of my mother or her American friend, whereas Keir Starmer reminds me of one of my stupid idiot um headmasters. Because my mother shouted against the appraisal of our pervy headmaster in a Catholic church, um, and it. Oh, I'm so proud of her. And people coming up to me and saying, "Your mother should get a medal for what she did," whilst other people were criticising her. And I've sort of, I think she's mentally passed the baton to me. But yeah, having an older mother was brilliant. There aren't many children of my age in the 80s and 90s who could walk around a museum with their mother saying, "Oh, I remember that. I remember that gas mask. Oh, a switchboard. I used to work on one of these. I'll show you how it works. You plug that into that." I mean, I was watching Little House on the Prairie, and even in the Victorian times, Mrs. Olsen, she's using a switchboard, and I'm thinking, crumbs, even my mother worked on one of them. That's when the telephone was just being invented. It was like the new thing. But yeah, my mother used to connect people back in the day in the 50s and 60s. But it was more fun looking at the wartime stuff as a child, and my mother saying, "Oh, I remember that. I remember that." And Mrs. Reynolds, who was older than my mother, saying, when we learned about the Second World War, she said, "Go home to your parents and ask them about the war." And my mother said, "None of your friends' parents were alive. They weren't even born during the war." She said even I can only just about remember, because my mother was about 7 years old when the war ended. So, but to travel the world, I mean, that's how I found out that I had to go to Egypt and South Africa, Cape Town, to find out that Africa's a continent, not a country. I had to go there. I know when I did care work, I was talking to this black African guy, and he was saying, he laughed. He said, "It makes me laugh, the number of people that say that." I said, "Oh, it's not just me then." I was in my late teens or early 20s. Uh, yeah, because I sort of like, I didn't know that Egypt was in Africa. I didn't know that Cape Town was South Africa. I thought Africa was a country. I watched The Lion King and I thought it was a country. But like I said, you learn by traveling. It's brilliant. Um, and on that note, I've gone off on one. I've totally gone off on one, but I'm going to finish by saying, my sister, my transgender sister, there's an irony with this Big Brother thing, because uh, I helped my transgender sister audition for make a video for Big Brother decades ago. She went on Pop Idol. I think we went to Wales actually. I'd never been to Wales. We were on the outskirts of Wales, and she got to meet she went on Pop Idol, and they edited it to make her look silly. Um, and she also auditioned for Big Brother. This is my transgender sister who's living as a man. Yeah, man. And those were really good times though. Those I had fun helping her make a video, doing silly things, and I think it got through to one of the final rounds. And now there's just been this thing come out um about the Big Brother is being cancelled because for the reasons that someone like me, being threatened with prison because I refused to call my sister a man. That is George Orwell coming to life. And going to the diary room, oh, because you said that this woman, this man is a woman, but she was a woman. Oh, but you can't say that. Ooh, you know. So, um, and now it's lost its viewers. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. So, oh, forgive me. Um, but yeah. So the irony. So I'm going to go and see this public figure. But also, the other thing that I said before my thing cut out was that it's ironic because I have actually been called a bloke before, or I've had men say, "Is she a bloke?" But that was 20 odd years ago. And actually, in more recent years as well, I've been asked. It was 23 years ago at my first Adamant convention, 23 years ago when I was 20. I had one of the men say to me, um, I thought you looked like one of the blokes from Bucks Fizz. And I was so upset, but I also took it as some weird compliment. I had glitter on my face, really blonde hair, and trying to make my hair big. And my hair was nowhere as big as it has been in recent years. No, I started to look more like a drag queen within just over a decade ago, making my hair as big as I possibly can, with bows in my hair and false eyelashes and sticking bits on, and really going for the drag queen look. And that is why men thought, had they thought that, oh, I actually look like a man, as in a man, as opposed to a drag queen, then I would have been very upset, of course. But I knew that I looked ridiculous because that everyone at the Adamant convention. But with that, I've got to be very careful what I say. But there was someone at the Adamant convention. I've got to be very careful what I say because they could be watching me. Or things get said. But there was a transgender person, um, from Brighton, and I used to be friendly with that person. Um, and I really did think that they were a woman, as in born a woman, but they were quite tall and they had a bit of a deep voice. So I just felt that something, you know how it is. You get some women who are born women who are slightly manly. You get some men who seem slightly feminine, and that's. But I remember thinking, and then that person later showed me a photograph of themselves as a man, which was shocking. And I can't even say the rest because they might watch me and I've got to protect myself. No, I really can't finish. I mean, it's like we're living in is it North or South Korea? Do you know what? I love the Chinese and the Japanese. I wanted to say something about the Chinese and the Japanese. I wish I'd been born in Japan. They're lovely, lovely people. I wanted to talk about our Japanese student that stayed with us in the 90s when I was still at school. Dear Tomoko, I love, lovely Tomoko. I just, I lost her contact though, and it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. They are lovely people. I had Chinese hamsters, and she said, I said I wanted to give the Chinese hamsters real Chinese names. She said Hung Yung and Fei Fei, and she showed me how to write them in Chinese and Korean. I was like, I can't. This is like writing a different language. Oh, I love Tomoko so much. I got happy memories of her. Anyway, I divert. You know, they're the loveliest people. Japan is the place to be. The cleanest people. The night they've got it right. Japan have got it right. No, they do not want immigrants from anywhere. Keep Japan Japanese. They are lovely, clean people. Everything is perfect. You go on the underground. People, I've never been to Japan, but when Tomoko stayed with us, mum said I would have Japanese students again. They are lovely people. Um, and even when they don't like each other, they're very good at hiding it because they're so polite and lovely. Um, I just had some really happy moments with Tomoko. She used to write to mum. After I found her. I actually found her address and I wrote to her saying that my mum had died, and she said, I'm so sorry. Can I continue writing to you to keep my English? Now, Amira's Iranian, she wanted me to help her with her English. I would have done that. But the problem is she didn't listen to me. Oh, you know, I'd be good at, I think I'd be good at helping someone with their English, especially because I've got good grammar. But I lost contact with Tomoko, and you know what? Chinese people, I think they're brought up in the same way as well. They've got a different mentality. They're brought up so much nicer. But this Korea thing, is it North or South Korea? You know that the UK is becoming like where you can't say things and the neighbours will peach on you. I don't know, but I feel I've got to be so careful what I say. Though, just I can't even allude to certain things because a few years ago I thought Leanne, this person, this transgender person from the Adamant conventions, turned funny towards me because I have an opinion about it not being right, and I wouldn't call my sister a man. So do you know I could take legal action against you if you refuse to call me a man? And I thought she was he was joking, but I didn't know the world I was living in. I honestly didn't know. But it's very frightening, and my free speech is the only thing that I've got left. If you've got no friends, no family, and your free speech is all you've got, I might as well go and live in America then, because the land of the free. Do you know something? I had more stars and stripes than I had Union Jacks in my bedroom. I had a massive stars and stripes flag above my bed, and you know now I fully understand why why I had that massive stars and stripes flags. I even learned that the The stars represent the states of America, but they've added more. I think there are more than 50 now. Um, yeah, and of course, I know about the Statue of Liberty. I know that it's built by Freemasons, French Freemasons. That's why when I saw An American Tail, that pigeon was French because they were French Freemasons. I will never get I'll never get my. That sounds Italian. No, he's meant to be French. Oh, he ho! I will never get my. I will never get my statue finished. I still sound Italian. That's meant to be a French pigeon. Yeah, I always thought the Statue of Liberty was gold because, well, it was actually brass. In the Victorian era when it was first made, it was goldish, but it went all manky green because of the weathering. So we went there in 1989, the year that Cadillac Man came out. Um, and why nobody told me and never told me, in the same way that nobody told me that my father used to serve David Jason in the early 80s. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me that Anne had had her workplace used for Cadillac Man. She never told me that because I grew up loving Robin Williams. She worked for Jaguar and they used her workplace and they asked her if she wanted a part in Cadillac Man. Anyway, yeah, I had a fear of lifts and Mum took me up 80 floors up. If you, yeah, an elevator, the American, we say lift, you say elevator. And Anne said she's got a fear of elevators and you're going to take her up the 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 Empire State Building because it was the still the world's one of the world's tallest buildings when we went there. And I think my mum was quite proud of me. She said she's not coming to America without going. She's not coming to New York without going up to the Empire State Building. Mum and Bronya went up Twin Towers and the World Trade Center. Yeah, and I never did. I wish I had, but at least I went up, got inside the torch of the Statue of Liberty. That thing on my head as well. So, that's a very satanic statue, though. It was built by the Freemasons. Well, everything's satanic, isn't it? Everything's pagan. Built by the Freemasons. Oh, I've been watching this wonderful woman's. What's her name? Is it Sarah Paulton? She's exposed the royal family, the Freemasons, all that. And I didn't realise that Diana got involved in blood sports. Oh, I just watched her last video. It's absolutely disgusting. They the royals they get their children, they get them hunting and then they cover them, they get their first kill and smear them in blood. And Harry was telling a disgusting story about Prince Harry was saying how at the age of 11 his head was stuffed into an animal carcass and they put all the blood and guts inside his mouth. They're sick, and as Sarah Paulton was saying, these are the same people that preserve wildlife. They the royals, yeah, get rid of them. And she also touched upon their satanic rituals because they're bloodthirsty, aren't they? And adrenochrome and all of that evil. I thought that Princess Diana was against all of that because she didn't want her sons getting involved in it, but apparently she was involved in it. So horrible, horrible, horrible. Um, sick. I just, yeah, and I'm also disgusted with, you know, to Prince George. He's been initiated into all of that. You know, he will have been smeared in animal blood and forced to kill. I thought Kate Middleton was different. She's not. She's a Freemason. She's joined all of that. They're not conservationists. They're horrible people. I've got nothing. I don't want to be anywhere near people. These people are psychopaths. The royals are psychopaths. I go for a walk. I have to be around birds. I pick up a hedgehog, feel its beating heart, its warmth, and I feel a connection to that animal. I want to be away from people. And you know what? Maybe it's because I've got tribal blood in me. Mum said we've got watered down tribal blood in us. It's barely existent. And Mrs. Kicking Rabbit married into, on my mother's side, distantly married into, but I don't know if that's North American, South American, or African, or what. But I've got tribal blood in me. Having said that, I don't believe that having a black Anne Boleyn. My grandma was white. I don't think that could work, could it? In the same way that I couldn't play the part of Whoopi Goldberg, you know. Yeah, they got a black Anne Boleyn so they got a black actress to play Anne Boleyn. My grandmother was related to Anne Boleyn. Don't think that would work, would it? My grandma was white like me. I don't know. Can black and white people be related? I don't know. But it's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? Right, I've got a bit of a tummy ache now, talking about all this stuff. I suppose it's a bit stomach churning, all this stuff. It's a bit, ugh. It's all very, very, very frightening though, what's going on out there, free speech. But I've always felt a connection to the mentality of the North American people in general. I can't relate to the mentality of English people. I was just brought up extremely well, but my good manners, my very good manners, have been lost on a lot of very, very nasty people, and I just don't belong here. I never did. The culture, drinking tea, yes. We're supposed to be an animal loving nation apart from the bloodthirsty royals, yes. But that's probably where it ends for me. Um, I belong in the land of the free. I've liked this idea of the land of the free, America, having that, um, not following the sheep. I'm a black sheep, you know. I'm the black sheep. But there we go. Anyway, so I just thought it was rather amusing to say that my transgender sister, she was going to go, or she auditioned for Big Brother, which is ironic. It's ironic that I've been called a bloke. And the last time I saw my transgender sister before her support worker swore at me in Weatherspoons because I refused to call her a man, etc., etc. um, the last time I'd seen her before that was at the Bucks Fizz gig at the bandstand 9 years ago. And it was either Bobby G or Mike Nolan who called her love, and that really upset her. She didn't get him arrested. And I like I said in my first video, I think it's very strange that my eldest sister is calling my transgender sister a man, because my transgender sister said to me that she was disgusted with my eldest sister. Both of them fought over who signed my mother's death certificate. They've gone on to go through my father's things without me. Tanya doesn't love Bronya, so why is she calling her a he? There's no consistency with my sisters. But they, as the sworn advocate said, they've illegally gone through my father's things without me. There are so many unanswered questions. I've got all these emails to type. I'm barely functioning or sleeping, And yeah, so it's kind of interesting that um, I remember that I remember Dave Prowse, aka Darth Vader, when me and my sister went to the 80s Here and Now concert in Brighton. He said, "Who are you going to go and see?" He was taking an interest in me, and I said, "Bucks Fizz." Oh, um, and yeah, and it was either Bobby G or Mike Nolan. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them, my sister chased after him in the rain and he wouldn't sign something, and that's what she was talking to him about 9 years ago at the bandstand. And I know that I've had these really weird moments where you know these weird coincidences. I used to play my CD player going up to London. I had a letter for Adamant, and I was on the train going up to London playing Bucks Fizz on my CD player. And I got off, had to change train. I had to get off at Haywards Heath. And I overheard this man talking about the drummers for Bucks Fizz. And I said, "Excuse me, please. I couldn't help overhearing you. You mentioned Bucks Fizz and the drummers and something." And he said, "Oh yeah, I work for the band for Bucks Fizz." I said, "You're joking." I said I said they're my second favourite pop group. I've got them on my CD player. And then we got on the train, and then Cheryl Baker rang him up, and I was like, he's talking to Cheryl Baker in front of me, and I've got the CD. I'm listening to their songs on the CD. It's just surreal. Um, there we go. So I got to see them at the bandstand, and that was the last time I saw my sister before I saw her in Wetherspoons in August last year, when I was being sworn at by her support worker because I refused to call her a man. And she was upset because one of the men from Bucks Fizz was calling her love. And the irony that I've had someone actually say to me at the first Adamant convention 23 years ago, "I thought you looked like one of the men from Bucks Fizz." It's just weird, isn't it? Um, yeah. It's also interesting how the whole satanic music industry, they do that gender bending, and young people like me seem to like that feminine look on men. especially the makeup. So yeah, I found the effeminate look, and of course Adamant and the makeup and everything. It's weird, isn't it? Very weird. It was even kind of funnier, really, is that both me and my transgender sister, we both thought our eldest sister looks and sounds like Boy George. How about that? And we didn't realise that we both thought that. I remember watching Boy George and thinking, I mean, I was born in 1982, but I remember looking at Boy George and thinking, in the "Do you really want to hurt me" video, I remember thinking to myself, gosh, he really looks like he's got Tanya's mannerisms. There's this moment where he looks at there's a certain thing, and they're both Gemini. Yeah, I know I shouldn't say that. Abby will forgive me, but yeah, I the Gemini thing. They're both Gemini, and they've both got the same look and mannerisms. And both me and my transgender sister think that our eldest sister looks and sounds like Boy George, and they're both the same star sign. And Tanya didn't get it. My eldest sister didn't get it when I gave her a card with a picture of Boy George on it. She just looked at me like, huh? And the funny thing is, she came back from New York in 2001 with her hair all braided in beads and a flouncy shirt, and she said, "What do you think, Mum? Karma Chameleon?" And I giggled to myself. But it was only a few years after that that I learnt from my transgender sister that she too thought that Tanya looks and sounds like Boy George. Obviously, there's some very, very bad things about Boy George. And the dolphin square was used in the "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me" video, which there's a paedophile sex ring, an elite paedophile sex ring in Dolphin Square, and Adamant's father was a part of it before he was arrested. MK Ultra, everything I've been talking about. Baphomet, oof, yeah. Freemasonry, yeah, they're all heavily, heavily in the club. I just thought it was very interesting that my middle sister also, funnily enough, there is a video of I got a video clip on VHS of Adamant Warriors video, and for a split second he's got these high cheekbones, very high cheekbones, just like my transgender sister. And I said to my transgender sister, I said, there's a clip of Adamant, and for a moment you look and sound like Adamant. It's his high cheekbones. So there you go. So my sisters I like to remind me of two male new romantics, and the obviously I know astrology. All this stuff is witchcraft. But what else was I going to say? Um, I was going to say something about um the high cheekbones. That's it. Yeah. Before I was into Adamant, I was into Leonardo DiCaprio. So I had loads of Leonardo DiCaprio posters that was later replaced by Adamant. And yeah, born in the same week as Adamant, the Scorpio. Adamant is the 3rd of November, and Leonardo is 11th of November. So that's the 3rd to the 11th of November is Scorpio too. Um, Again, Abby Yahweh, keep my hedge of protection. Forgive me for saying all of this. I know I've renounced astrology. But I had a massive poster of Leonardo DiCaprio on my bedroom door, and my mother actually said to me, she actually said this, "Is that Bronya?" I said, I said, "Yeah, Mum, I'm really gonna have a massive poster of my own sister on my door." But my again, it's the high cheekbones. It's the cheekbones. She has these beautiful, really beautiful, high cheekbones, higher than mine. They're like way up here. And I'm complimenting my sister here. How can you criminalize me for saying I love my transgender sister and saying loving, kind things, unless you're full of such hatred? I mean, who would do that? Who indeed? But there we go. So my own mother was saying, is that Bronya? No, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Why would I have a massive poster? Because these posters were huge. It covered the entire door. It covered the entire. Some of them would. I just didn't have the room for all the posters. They were huge, some of them. So this poster that my mother was referring to, it covered my entire door. Like, I'd say nearly the whole door. So there we go. So that's that. So I'm signing off now. I hope this has been interesting to listen to.